It doesn't have to be the same table, but the same group.
We are fine. We are all ready.
Pardon?
We are all ready for the interview.
Okay. Hare Krishna. So, we have a new teacher for you today. He will teach us all day about team building, teamwork. His name is Tappanam Mishra Prabhu. And he has a very rich CV, very rich bio, both spiritually and in the secular dimension. He has been very actively involved in many aspects of ISKCON life. He was actually connected when he was a college student, right? So then he moved to the Middle East, and he was instrumental in building the Yatra of Kuwait, where now there are about 800 devotees, I believe. 800 devotees in the desert. And he's also a member of the GBC Organizational Development Committee. And he's one of the first global duty officers. New position established relatively recently, and the first group was nominated and ratified by the GBC last October. So he's one of the first 17 global duty officers. And in fact, within that role, he coordinates the various, he keeps tracks of the various other global duty officers' duties and responsibilities. And we'll talk more about the GDO or Global Duty Officer role. He does a number of service. He also helps with the Congregational Development Ministry. He teaches in Mayapur at the Mayapur Institute. And he does a lot of different services, very, very valuable service. From the secular point of view, he has been working as an investment manager for the government of the Sultanate of Oman in the Arabic Peninsula. So basically he's given a budget of billions of dollars, not millions, billions with a B, and he invests in different parts of the world, different projects, from Europe to Asia and different places. He sits on a number of boards of directors. What was your budget? 20? Yeah, $4 or $5 billion was given to him to invest on behalf of the government, and he was also supervising before moving to Mayapur. Now him and his family, wife and 2 daughters, they live in Mayapur Dham. And before moving to Mayapur, he was also sitting on the board of the whole organization that oversees the Hindu schools in Oman. That was about 40,000 students, and he was leading that. So he has a lot of experience in many, many spheres of life. He's also a graduate of this GBC College for Leadership Development. He got his graduation last month, February 10. So we are very happy to have him teach here. Ladies and gentlemen, Tappan Mishra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
He has also requested that for this, for today, for this work, we resume the configuration of the groups that was there when you did the strategic planning. Strategic planning, if you still remember. So that's the request. If possible, I know some of you, Devakinandan Prabhu had an emergency. His wife had an operation in Singapore, so he had to leave a little earlier and so on. But so that's a general, so it's not 100%, no, indispensable, but that's the request, if you could sit as when you were doing strategic planning.
I also noticed that some groups are thinner than the others. So if we can reconstitute in 5 members. Can we have 5? So there is 2 missing here and 1 here.
Aniruddha Prabhu, is he coming? Yeah.
Okay, so they will come in.
For strategic planning, you were there or you were here? So, okay, I'll let you
Okay.
organize whatever.
Hare Krishna. Dear Vaishnavas, please accept my humble obeisances. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavnebhyo Vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Amongst the various reasons that Kante Prabhu stated about my qualifications, etc., and why I am here, one of the qualifications or reasons he did not forget to mention, actually he forgot to mention, is I'm here because I want to serve you. And I'm here to learn from you. It would be presumptuous on my side to assume that I, in this body, in any capacity, can teach anything to all of the Vaishnavas who are gathered here. Many of you have years of experience and illustrious experience in our organization. So my motivation today is to learn together.
Schedule if there, then it easier for
Sure.
us to.
So, team. When we hear the word team, a lot of emotions, expressions run through our mind. One popular acronym for team is displayed on the screen for you. Together, everyone achieves more. So our day today is dedicated for all of us to achieve something about team learning. I'd like us to first hear from Srila Prabhupada. A quote, a very powerful quote is on the screen. And during the session, given my poor voice and a flu, I would call upon devotees if you can voluntarily read that what's displayed on the screen loudly and clearly.
Hare Krishna. It is simply by cooperation we can do very big thing. United, we can stand. Divided, we fall. Room conversation with Radha Damodar Sankirtan party on March 16, 1976, Mayapur.
Our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, emphasized time and again cooperation and teamwork. And he used this very powerful statement: united we stand, divided we fall. It's a very emphatic statement with very deep meaning. It applies to our lives within our friendship circle. It applies in our life within our service circle and overall. I'm going to put a proposition in front of you today, and that is that teams are seen everywhere, all around us. For a moment, I want you to close your eyes, all of you, and think about a team that comes immediately to your mind. Just please close your eyes, think about a team. It can be from any walk of life. Thank you. Would anybody like to share what team comes to their mind?
The first team that came to my mind was my family.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Maharaj.
I was thinking of a music team. Music team.
Music team. So Maharaj said a music team. Anyone else? Rishi Kumar Prabhu?
Unfortunately, the first thing that came to my mind was a cricket team. Then I,
Hare Krishna.
then I tried to move it around, and I remember that when I was in college, I used to be a part of a quiz team. So that sounded a little bit reasonably secular.
Something more intellectual
Yes.
compared to a cricket team. You're right. Maharaj is right. Rishikumar Prabhu is right. Teams are everywhere. Everywhere. You have music. There are teams. If you want to perform music or even kirtan, the only way you can do is if you are a team. Imagine somebody playing a kartal in a different beat and a mridanga in a different beat. It won't be very melodious. Teams are in cricket and sports. They are present in corporations. The only way corporations are able to generate big results are through teamwork, assigning responsibilities. In fact, I'm making a proposition that teams are also present in higher planetary systems. And I make a further proposition that teams are present in all 8.4 million species of life. And in order to prove that to you, I'm going to borrow upon a video to show you how that happens. May I request upstairs to please activate the sound?
It's smarter to travel in groups. Material from different parts of the world, and I, with respectfully, owe the copyright to whoever I borrowed it from. Okay. So, we noticed how throughout the universe, teams exist. And I would like you, there is a sheet of paper or your pads, there are pads given to everyone. If you can write down in one sentence how you would define a team. This piece of paper that you've written your definition on, please keep it handy, because in 15 minutes' time, I'm going to share with you the assessment for the day. There's going to be an individual assessment which you're required to submit at the end of the day or maybe tomorrow morning, depending upon how we proceed. So please keep this piece of paper handy. Now, I put a definition on the screen. How do you feel about this definition? Would somebody like to read?
A group of people who have been working in the same room or organization for many years.
Is that a satisfactory definition? Maharaj nods his head and says no. Would Maharaj like to share what is it that you see missing in this definition?
It could be a new team, may not be for many years. They've just come together and they may stay together for a short while. But
Right.
still they're a team.
Yes. If we were to say that, if we were to add the word new in this definition, would that satisfy you, Maharaj?
An easier way would be a simpler definition, a group of individuals coming together for a common purpose.
Oh, wonderful. On that, I'll take a cue from Maharaj and display another definition. And please share with me how you feel about this statement. Based on the research that's done on this topic, of course, there can be so many definitions. We have 25 Vaishnavas in this room, and I won't be surprised if we came up with 25 different ways of defining a team. But what's emphasized here is a group of people that work on a common project and are prepared to sacrifice personal views to accomplish their goals. Here, the goal, Maharaj, could be a purpose for the whole team. And amongst the definitions that I noticed that were floating around, I found this to be closest to a Vaishnava-like definition because it includes the word sacrifice personal views. There are certain important components of a team which need to be there for it to be called a team. Of course, there has to be more than one member. We can't really have a team if there's just me and myself and I am the team. There should be, as Maharaj highlighted, common goal or purpose. There should be complementary abilities. We should strive for that. If they're not there, then we should develop such skill set. And they should be willing to work together. Often, there is a group and there's a team. And we tend to misunderstand a group for a team. If we don't pay attention to the components, then it's just simply a group. Which one of these do you think is a group and which one of these is a team? So there are two pictures, one on left, one on right. Yes, Prabhu, there.
The one on the left, because it kind of, there's a bit more synergy, they're working together towards that common goal, whereas the one on the right, it's like, well, they obviously say what has to be done, and then everyone just does it.
Wonderful, and you're right. So, if we were to, there can be many differences between a group and a team, but if we were to just broadly look at some distinctions, they are as follows. And I'd like you to just quickly glance through them, and if there are any questions, we can take those, or we'll move forward. Yes, Prabhu.
So what would be the difference between interacting and collaborating?
Interacting and collaborating. Would anybody around the room like to throw some light? Yes, Prabhu.
I'll give it a shot. So basically, interacting might be, I come up to you and say, can you give me a pen? Thank you. That's an interaction, whereas collaboration could be like I come up and then we might just maybe exchange ideas, or how about this? Oh, there's that. So there's some type of exchange from both parties, adding to the pool, so to speak.
So it's much more. The interaction is one part of collaboration, but a small part of collaboration. And as Devkinandan Prabhu here was asking us, collaboration is one of the topics that we'll cover during the day. Given that we're going to spend the whole day on this topic of team development, I'd like us to focus on why. Why do we need to talk about team development and its relevance to our mission? Let's hear from Srila Prabhupada again.
This unity between individual soul is so strong within this material world that even in a society of Krishna consciousness, members sometimes appear disunited due to their having different opinions and leaning toward material things. Actually, in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be two opinions. There is only one goal, to serve Krishna to one's best ability. If there is some disagreement over service, such disagreement is to be taken as a spiritual. Those who are actually engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be disunited in any circumstance. This makes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very happy and willing to award all kinds of benediction to his devotee, as indicated in this verse.
So Srila Prabhupada again and again reiterated this principle. He was worried about the progress of the mission, and he specifically stated, cooperation and teamwork is the only way we can take this mission forward. Individually, in each of the services that we've done, we have noticed this umpteen times. The only way we've borne any success in our endeavors is because of working together as a team with a specific purpose. There are several advantages of a team. And, yes, Maharaj. Sorry?
Is it Canto 4 or Canto 3?
That's Canto 3, from the Prachetas.
I think it's Canto 4.
Oh, sorry, then I put the wrong chapter. Okay, now benefits of a team. There are several advantages that a team brings to the table, and devotees get to know each other better, communication increases, improves, there's increased tolerance and understanding, devotees feel a sense of belonging and being connected, a climate of cooperation and collaborative problem solving, improved morale in the temple, there's a strong sense of unity and team spirit. And I'm sure in your individual experience, whenever you formed a good team, you noticed these advantages coming into play, coming into life. Some more. Devotees develop trust, care, compassion, kindness, and empathy. We find that the individuals in the team feel inspired and valued in their service. Devotees become aware of the strengths, weaknesses, and differences that exist between them. There is more creative thinking, out of box. There is no fear that exists within the team. In a group it may be, in a hierarchical situation it may be, but in a team, everybody is encouraged. There's higher level of satisfaction and commitment for assigned service. They are more aware that others are depending on them. A very important principle of the team is interdependence. Our existence of the team, our existence of the service is dependent upon other Vaishnavas. That's the spirit. Thus, a service becomes joyfully performed. Now, all of these benefits can, in principles, be summarized in specific advantages that you gather from a team. Now, I notice that a lot of the Vaishnavas are taking notes. I want to mention it here that I will, at the end of the session, with little bit of editing, circulate. So this presentation, if you like, shall be available for your service so that you don't have to necessarily take notes. But if there are other things for which you feel important, on your sheet of paper, for your own assessment, if something that comes to your mind that you feel very inspired about, please feel free to do so. But do not tire yourself because this presentation is for you and shall be made available for all of you. Those broad principles. Now, I'm not talking about teams here, as in benefits of teams, but I'm talking about the broad principles. So the broad principles are, it involves more people. If you work as a team, it involves more people. When you involve more people, all of them bring their different personalities and skill sets into the team. And thus, you can take advantage, take benefit from the skills that they bring to the team. It helps broaden the perspective of the whole team. When you have a team within which devotees are coming from different perspectives, different personalities, typically, although we feel very uncomfortable, we feel disturbed because it's so difficult to manage, but there are advantages. They help us broaden our perspective. It helps us distribute workload. It provides opportunities for development for each individual of the team because you can learn from each other. Somebody may be good at one service, other may be good at another service. It increases the efficiency of the mission. Bear in mind, at this point, we are at the section of this session, we are trying to establish why, as a mission, we need to work upon, learn about working in teams. It develops constructive relationships and helps us achieve which our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada very much wanted. Unity in diversity. Now, there is a group assignment which I would like you all to conduct. Now, this assignment will be done within the groups that you're sitting. And because we are all a big team here, and we want the advantage of your perspective, your experience of working in teams, the assignment is as follows. Individual teams in the group, I am requesting you to please have your prasadam together today. Each person shares an example of teamwork within the group. So individually, you have to share with others an anecdote, an example from your own life where you worked as a team, something that was very inspiring. And then, within the group of 5 or a group of 4 that you are, you have to identify one of those anecdotes. But it doesn't stop there. That anecdote, you have to title or summarize with a sutra or a small poem, and you have to prepare up to 500 words that you will come back after lunch session and be willing to share with all the Vaishnavas who are present here. So each group will come with one anecdote which will have a sutra or a poem. Up to 500 words will describe the incident and the lesson from it, something that you felt very inspired with. And be prepared to share it with all the Vaishnavas post-lunch session. Any clarifications on this group assignment? That's perfectly fine. As long as you're more than one, by our definition, you are a team. Okay? Thank you. And there is also an individual assessment. The reason I'm stating it up front, because I was asked by Devakinandan Prabhu, and also I felt it's appropriate. As we go along the day, you should be aware of what you'll be assessed on. The individual assessment is, starting now, and I'll give you a few minutes, you have to select a project that you worked on or is ongoing. This is individual, not group, individual. It could be where you, the team is, sorry for the editing. It could be where the team you're thinking about is good, or where you saw a scope for improvement. So it could be a team where you felt you were very good, or it could be a team where you felt there was a scope for improvement, ample scope of improvement. So you have to write it down on a piece of paper now, what your project is. And you can take a few minutes to do that. The project example that you'll write down now will be utilized by you throughout the day. So whenever we will be discussing concepts, you will reflect upon that project in your mind to see how the concepts that we are going to cover today are applicable to that particular project. And the assessment is, because we are having 4 sessions, so there's a whole day is divided into 4 parts. Therefore, I would like you to submit at least 4 areas of improvement based upon what we will cover today and the project you have taken. Identify 4 areas of improvement where you think the team could be improved. And also, please write down next to it the concept that you learned today that you will utilize for improving that area of the team. Any clarifications on the assessment? Aniruddha Prabhu. Sure. Is there an email group that I can access? There's a WhatsApp group. I'm not sure whether I can do it right away, later on, but please bear in mind this is a day's assignment. So this is expected of you during the day. Would somebody help me summarize the assignment? If you think you've got an adequate understanding of what's expected. Here.
So we just have to choose an example of a team that's either going well or needs some improvement. We're going to be using that example throughout the whole day. And then basically at the end of the session, we just need to submit 4 areas that need some improvement. And then during the day, we're going to be learning concepts. So then we have to associate those certain concepts with those 4 areas in regards to how that can be improved.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. If you need any clarification, this is the time to ask. Yes, this is an individual assessment for you. The previous one was a team or a group assignment. As I can see, Aniruddha Prabhu has now captured it on his mobile phone. Now I'll call upon him to use the Wi-Fi network and post it on the WhatsApp group so that whoever has WhatsApp can access it. All right, so there is what we need to do during lunch, and there is something which is an individual. Sorry, do you want to? Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Maharaj wanted a clarification. This individual assignment, we have to do it now or throughout the day?
Throughout the day,
Huh.
and then you can submit it at the end of the day.
Submit at the end of the day.
Group assessment will be the lunch time, no?
Group assessment will start after lunch.
Lunch.
Oh.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm making a big assumption here that we are all clear of the assignment. If it's still not clear to someone, during the break, the 12 o'clock break, you can please approach me and clarify. Now, please take a few minutes to think about the project, because what we're going to do in the next 10-15 minutes is, based upon the project that you've taken, you would be carrying out a health check of your project. So I'll put some questions, which I will request one of you to lead aloud. And in your own mind, you have to identify how does your project team, how does it fare on those questions of health check. I will share with you some symptoms of a bad team first. And then after looking at the symptoms, like a doctor does, we will diagnose what's the problem. Then we will look at the symptoms of a good team, a team which is performing very well. And then we will draw upon a list of core principles, 7 or 8 of them, core principles that help us establish and run great teams. And then, for the remaining part of the day, we are going to focus on those 7, 8 core principles, one after the other, through the learning process. So 2 minutes for you to identify your project in your mind before we start the health check. And I would request you to please, if you don't have a pad, I've requested the devotees to put sheets of paper. This sheet of paper, there's several sheets of paper on your tables which you can utilize. Write down the project on top. If you write it down on the top and you start taking your notes now, then it will be easier for you to submit your assessment. So, yes, Prabhu.
One which we have already done or which we are going to do?
You have both choices. You can take one which you've already done or something which is going on.
Going on or will have to do? That is not right.
I think will have to do will not work here, because you'll have to apply practical principles in terms of leadership, in terms of collaboration. So better to take a live example or something that you've done to retrospectively analyze it. I will ask for a show of hands now to share with me how many devotees have thought about the project that they're going to analyze in the next few minutes. How many devotees have thought about the project already? Okay, we still have some devotees who need more time, so we'll take another minute before we start out.
I have a small question.
Yes, Prabhu.
Should we describe the project?
Yes.
Or should we just write down the name?
You can write down your own code name or
Okay.
something in the form of a small sutra.
Okay.
Later on, I would expect at least there should be 1 or 2 sentences
1 or 2 sentences. Okay.
for me to understand the
Okay.
project. So 1 minute, please, take a minute.
Those who have formulated or thought about or written down the project? Okay, all right. Okay, so we have a co-facilitator with us, called Vani Prabhu, who is going to read out these questions for your health check. So he's going to read out the question, and you've got to deliberate in your mind for a few seconds. So he's going to read a question, give you 5-7 seconds, and then he's going to move on. You don't have to write a detailed explanation. Just simply observe how your team is performing on these questions. Over to you, Gaurvani Prabhu.
Is the work getting done?
Okay. There is a question to a question. Yes, Devkinandan Prabhu.
Yeah, you said you take a project, right?
Yes.
So I took a project Janmashtami 2017. So is the work getting done?
Yes.
They're not even
So
started.
in the project of Janmashtami 2017, which is upcoming, there will be certain tasks that you may have in your project. Now, are your team members proceeding? Are they doing what you're asking them to do? Is what this question is asking. Not that
It
the
has not-
project has come to an end. It is individual.
It has not been started.
Then please,
Project in my head.
yeah. So please change your project as I requested. It has to be a live project, or it has to be a project that you've done in the past.
Okay,
Thank
those-
you for the clarification. It's helpful. We'll give few seconds for Devkinandan Prabhu to rephrase his project. We are a team, so we're going to move forward as a team.
Should we answer on a scale of 1 to 10?
Not necessarily.
A
It's just a
percentage?
simple question. How do you feel?
Okay.
Is it getting done or is it not getting done? Yes or
sir.
no? Maybe. Okay, we have to move on in the interest of time. Devkinandan Prabhu, are we good to go? Shall we proceed? Okay.
If someone is ill or away, does the gap remain unfilled?
If a devotee doesn't turn up for the service, does the work still get done?
Does the team have the resources it needs?
Money, a number of devotees, facilities.
Do the team members listen to each other?
This is a critical one, huh? Especially in a voluntary organization.
Does the team have efficient process to take decisions?
You as a member or you as a leader, have you established processes to take decisions? Or decisions come to a halt because you are traveling?
Are the rules in your team clearly understood?
Yes, Rishi Kumar.
Does this require us to be a team leader? Not necessary, right?
Not necessary.
Are your goals shared?
It sort of links to your observation. as in goals shared in two ways. Are they properly communicated? Second, are there goals in which you're working as a team? If everybody has just individual tasks, then there are no shared goals. Okay, now, as I promised, we will move to the next part where I will share with you the symptoms of a sick team. So we are all wearing, how many, is there any devotee here who's a medical doctor by profession? Maharaj is a doctor. Okay, Hare Krishna. Now today we have the opportunity, all of us, to actually become a doctor. So that's what we're doing. We're doing a health check. Now as doctors of your team, please notice the symptoms of a sick team. Over to you again. And if your projects or your team members come up with those symptoms, they are reflecting something.
Loss of energy, enthusiasm.
If you find it existing in your team, please note it down.
Lack of purpose, identity.
As Maharaj stated in the beginning of this session, purpose. Is the purpose highlighted in the center?
Cynicism and mistrust.
Cynicism? Ah, not possible. Come on, Prabhu. What are you talking about? Not possible at all. Lack of purpose or identity. So it's the purpose, a mission. We have certain purposes within ISKCON which give us an identity of a spiritual organization. So a team, as Maharaj was highlighting before, has to have a purpose. Without that purpose, if the purpose gets lost in between, then the identity of the team also falls apart. Cynicism and mistrust. I don't trust you, you don't trust me. Cynicism is, Prabhu, you're asking too much. This is not possible. We really can't do Janmashtami in this part of the city. Impossible. We can't sell, we can't distribute 500 books. It's too difficult for us. Cynicism.
Personal attacks.
Personal attacks and also sometimes personality attacks.
Finger pointing at management.
Is this something that anybody has experienced? Famous one. Radheshyam Prabhu says, famous one. Okay. Having looked at the symptoms, let's diagnose what's really happening there.
Weak sense of direction.
So now we are looking at principles. We saw the symptoms. Symptoms of cynicism, mistrust, lack of purpose. But now we're focusing on the principles. Weak sense of direction.
Lack of performance goals. Insufficient or unequal commitment. Critical skills gaps. Leadership problems.
Would you like to add anything else in this diagnosis of a sick team? This list is not meant to be exhaustive. It is meant to be just some principles. So if from your experience and wearing the hat of a doctor of a team or the projects that you've conducted, Rishi Kumar Prabhu would like to share. Lack of role clarity. Wonderful. Anything else? Absence of team members. Okay. Nice. Thank you so much. So as you can see, in your diagnosis, you can find more principles. but these are some which are important to keep in our heart. What we're doing is we're looking at a bad team, and then we're going to look at a good team to identify the principles that all of us will work upon for the rest of the day.
Team members arrive on time for meetings and are prepared.
Now, this is the section where we're looking at symptoms of a healthy team. These are symptoms.
Team members complete their tasks. Individual members are respectful. Team members listen to one another.
Now, if you are finding in your projects and teams these symptoms, as much as it was important to look at the symptoms of a sick team, if you're noticing this, please give yourself a pat on the back, because it's indicative that you're managing your teams well.
All members are involved and interested. Disagreements are carefully examined and resolved.
Disagreement always arise, but a symptom of a healthy team is that disagreements are not shoved under the carpet. They're not put under the carpet, but they're carefully looked upon, analyzed, and resolved.
Constructive feedback is welcome.
So if somebody is giving us a constructive feedback, we don't turn our back and say Hare Krishna, Hari Bol to him, say, see you next lifetime. We welcome that with an open heart, that yes, this is how we can improve individually and as a team. Now, having looked at the symptoms of a healthy team, I'm going to put on the board next what we feel or has been studied as diagnosis, important principles to have high performance teams.
Purpose.
High performance teams have a purpose.
Leadership.
They have good leadership.
Team spirit. Composition.
So the composition of a team is such that it complements, it helps us take the mission forward. Whatever our mission be in that team, it helps us take that mission forward because we compose the team in such a way with complementary skill sets.
Goals. Collaboration. Responsibility and accountability. Development life cycle.
So the first 7 points till accountability are the principles that help you establish good teams. If we were to take those top 7 principles, study them, apply them within our individual scope of services, then it will help us create high performance teams. The last point indicates that every team goes through a life cycle. So at the end of the session today, which is the later part, the last part of the day today, we will look at that despite following all 7 principles, still every team goes through a life cycle. Any points of clarification up till here? Yes. Okay.
Can you explain the difference between purpose and goals?
Sure. So Maharaj, purpose, goals, In fact, every single point that's on the screen now, we will spend 15, 20 minutes, half an hour on every single point. So I will request you to kindly park your question. If by the third session it's not answered, then we'll take it up. But I have put here only as bullet points now, these principles, but they all require elaboration. Any other clarification that you hear? Sorry, I'll come back to you, the mic here.
Shouldn't defined timelines also be considered a very important principle? The timelines, or are they part of something in here?
They would be part of goals, but it's an important principle, it should be included. Yes, Prabhu. The meaning of life cycle. So, without getting too philosophical on this point, just like a human being goes through certain phases of life, a team also, before it becomes high performance or a good team, it goes through certain phases. These are 4 phases, and these 4 phases will be covered. And sometimes the teams, after they accomplish the purpose and the goal, they are dismantled. Sometimes they do something else. So those 4 phases will be covered in the life cycle. Is that okay? All right. So this is our agenda for the day. Devkinandan Prabhu. So this will be our agenda for the day. That will be covered. So what have we done so far? Would anybody like to reflect upon what have we done so far? We heard from our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada on how important the teams are. Then what did we do next?
Team and group.
We looked at team and groups, as Radheshyam Prabhu says. We looked at team and groups. What's the difference? What else did we do? Yes, so we looked at the assignments that we have to do.
We showed some videos on how the birds and animals, when they work as a team to defend themselves.
Yes, the birds and the animals. That was the first part after Srila Prabhupada's quote. After establishing the message, I made a proposition that all 8.4 million species of life, they work in teams. Right? Thank you. And then we performed a health check. You've noted down your projects and we performed a health check of how we're performing, and now we have the agenda for the day. And if you're clear about the agenda of the day, please raise your hand. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Now, we will go in the same chronological order as is listed on this screen. The first one being purpose. Because the purpose is so important, without a purpose, you really don't know where you're going or what the team is expected to do. Throughout the day, I will be following this format for your convenience. This format has, on the right-hand side, all the 8 principles that we were going to work upon during the day. And on the left-hand side, at each section break, it will state which principle are we going to focus on. So the first principle we're focusing on is purpose, and it's one amongst the 8 which are listed on the right-hand side. For this, we will do an exercise. The 7 purposes of ISKCON will be displayed on the screen in front of you. Within your groups, please identify the elements within the 7 purposes that require or emphasize teamwork and cooperation. We are very fortunate that our founder Acharya has given us purpose. He's given us 7 purposes. We need not look beyond. Everything that we do within our society should converge towards the purposes given by our founder Acharya. Now, the purposes are going to come on your screen. Identify, relate elements in the purpose which you think necessitate teamwork. Okay? So this is in individual groups. You have to talk and see which part of that statement or the purpose or the whole thing requires teamwork. A typical answer that will come at the end of the session when I'll ask around is, Prabhu, all of this requires teamwork. Well, thank you. We all know that. But I'm looking at a careful analysis from your groups at the purpose to identify some specific points. If the assignment is clear to the groups, then we start. Should we go ahead? Is everybody clear? Hare Krishna. I'm not going to read. They're going to be displayed one after the other for a few seconds. You get some time to deliberate within the group. Underline or note down that word in the purpose that you think requires teamwork and move on. So here we start. Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, the groups are defined as all of you sitting around the table. Okay.
Can I have a break, please? Can I have a tea break?
An important part of the team is communication. So I'm expecting all of you to at least communicate within the members around the table. Dandavat pranam. Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Happy.
No, I'm not expecting a breakdown. I'm only asking you to meditate on these points and maybe note down a couple of points from here, which impressed upon your heart which you may want to share with everybody else at the end.
I'd say that the first one implies a lot more organisation, because propagation can still be quite individual.
I get what you're saying. Okay.
Fairly straightforward.
Yeah, no, I should go talk to that, yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So one more minute, please. We'll take another minute. And at the end of the minute, we're going to go around to the tables and request you to share in 1 minute your observations. Thank you. I'll call upon the group here, or the team here, to please share with us in 1 minute, reflecting on the purposes that our founder Acharya has given us, where did you feel encouraged to work as a team?
We've put this in one sutra.
Please.
Is there nothing ISKCON does that doesn't require teamwork?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So there's nothing that ISKCON does that
doesn't
require teamwork.
Yeah.
Anything in the purposes which specifically Prabhupada emphasizes to bind us together, to bring us together. Would you like to illustrate one point?
In the first purpose, Prabhupada talks about systematically. So systems indicate teamwork. He talks about education. Education indicates, education absolutely requires teamwork.
Correct.
Goals or purpose statements, generally for a society, it means a group of people coming together, and so the purpose statements define for that group how they should actually be working together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Aniruddha Prabhu. Okay.
Hare Krishna. The first one.
So we come to your group, and you can also share with us while you have the mic, please.
Actually, the word real unity was mentioned. So we considered it as a team. Otherwise, to educate, I really don't understand why you need a team. Like you are a single teacher, you're educating us.
Okay. So Prabhu has given his observation and a question at the same time. Prabhu's observation is, that group has picked upon this word real unity, which encourages you to form teams and work in team. And Aniruddha Prabhu had made a point about education and why does education require teamwork. These days in the education system, there is a lot of talk about collaboration. There's a lot of talk about in the secular world about students collaborating with teachers amongst themselves and so on and so forth. So may I call upon Aniruddha Prabhu to clarify the question as to why does he think that education requires teamwork. And we'll try to keep it short because we have a purpose for this exercise. And if the question still remains unanswered, I'll encourage that we take it offline. Thank you. Aniruddha Prabhu.
What was the question again?
So the question was, Prabhu was giving an illustration that I'm standing here as a teacher and educating. Why does it require teamwork?
Well, Prabhupada gives a very interesting example of the traditional Gurukul system, where the guru would train a number of students and then would, after having brought them to a certain level of proficiency, organize them to then start teaching the junior students, right? And so in the process of education, you may only be dealing with one person, but eventually you have a school. And schools, I think if you had anything to do with the school, you know that it's organization of a team. And Prabhupada gave that very simple example of how you educate one or a number, they become qualified, you then get them to teach others, and in that way you create a team of teachers to run your school and educate people.
So you create a shared purpose, and those who understand the purpose take it forward to the next level with others and move on. I am going to now go around the tables and allow the other devotees to contribute based upon what they have done. So I'll call upon this group team, please.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll go into point number 3 because the other points have been shared already. So the whole notion of to bring the members of the society together with each other, so just that whole concept of bringing members of the society together, in order to do that requires teamwork to do that. It's not just you have a whole bunch of random particles or random devotees just all of a sudden manifest in a temple in Haribol. No, it requires teamwork to accomplish that.
Thank you. So Prabhu's focused on the word bringing the society together. Next group.
Hare Krishna. We also found in one sense that these purposes, they could be, some of them could be done alone, but it won't be, it cannot cover, educate all people. So one person cannot do everything for all time to come. So it definitely requires a team to do all these things and keep doing them effectively. And in particular, we found book publishing and distributing would be impossible to do alone. To erect temples would be impossible to do alone. And yes, these are some things.
And ISKCON is a team, so, and ISKCON is the organization is team. So for the all purposes required.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
The way we analyzed this was that there were quite a few phrases which indicate direct teamwork. Like we looked at this, especially the numbers 1, 3.
Would you like to read
then
something from 1
6
and 3?
and 7? Yeah,
Would you
3.
like to read something?
1 and 3, yeah. In fact, in 1, it says, it talks about systematically propagating spiritual knowledge to society at large. Society at large does seem like an ambitious project for a single person. Plus, of course, educate all people. It's not just some. It's educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life. And at the end of it, it's real unity and peace in the world. However ambitious a person may be, he will need to take the help of at least one more person to look at that. So that's directly referring to
What
teamwork.
about 6th? Can you call
in
look at
6th.
6th as well and what you
And
felt
6th.
inspired with?
Yeah, here again it talks about to bring the members closer together. In the very first part is the members coming together is a team. The very members of ISKCON itself coming together is a team for the purpose of teaching a simpler, more natural way of life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rishi Kumar Prabhu. So, members coming together itself indicate a team. They could, as was highlighted here, they could come together and then disperse. But they have to become a team to stick together and work together and deliver together. Thank you.
I think more or less other team capture. We saw as a team in 4 also there's some teamwork to teach and encourage the Sankirtana movement, congregational chanting, which is again getting together. So though there's no direct unity or anything mentioned like in other objectives, but he's saying congregational chanting means again together as a team. So that we saw as a team that could be one element where we work as a team. Of course, to erect for the members and for the society at large, again there's an element of working together for the common purpose of the members of the society. Again, a team there. 6, I think it's already covered, to bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching. Of course, the last point again. Now, to achieve all these 6 purposes, that we need to publish and distribute periodicals, magazine, it's not one man's job. Obviously, there's a lot of team effort involved here.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Chaitanya Avatari Prabhu. So we spent last 10 to 12 minutes. In those last 10 to 12 minutes, you worked as a team. So the tasks was put up in front. The team got together, or the devotees got together. Very quickly they understood who's going to do what. They started discussing. And as you just witnessed in the last 10 minutes, we as a team, this whole group,
of devotees benefited from the collective wisdom that you all scrutinizingly extracted from the purposes given by Srila Prabhupada. Now, the purpose, as I said, is the foundation of any teamwork. The more clear it is, clear in a way that team members can understand it, that it can be communicated, the more it is aligned with the overall organization, in our case, our mission, the more long-lasting it will be. More impact, more influence it will have in encouraging devotees to give their life to Srila Prabhupada's mission. And it's upon all of us, individually and collectively, to decipher, simplify, and communicate these messages to the teams that we are either part of or lead. The next topic that we're going to cover, having established the importance of purposes, and there we did not go astray. We limited ourselves to the purposes established by our founder Acharya. Next, we're going to look at leadership. All of you are here because you're all leaders. I think it's a sort of a criteria to come to the college, that you have to be leaders. And now we will look at some traits of leadership that are important. In one way, the whole GBC college is meant for GBC College for leadership. So anything that you learn here, anything that you share here or experience is meant to make us better leaders. So what I'm going to share here now, again, is in no way exhaustive. It's just touching the tip. But possibly at least some of the important points will come out. So let's look at leaders. I have now for you, in the coming next 6-7 slides, quizzes, okay? Now, this is a rapid fire quiz. So you are in groups together, and whichever group raises the hand first, I will call upon them to answer the question, okay? And we'll collect points at the end. But if you or one of your team members decides to keep their hand up all the time so that you get the chance to answer, then you'll be disqualified. Okay? The quiz is as follows, and I'm going to call upon one of the volunteers here to also keep an eye on who raised first and take the mic straight away to them so that they can answer this rapid fire quiz. On your screen will appear 2 pictures, and out of those 2 pictures you have to identify the leader. Okay? Are we all set? Who goes first?
Right. Right.
What do you observe?
Because he helps to another.
What does the other person do?
Sorry?
What does the other person do?
Terrorism.
Okay, so this team is right. Are we ready for the next? Okay, he goes first.
The one on the right-hand side, because they're kind of like, illustrating.
I think we'll have to pass the mic around. The team is not very clear. Devkinandan Prabhu here raised his hand.
The right one is the leadership is there.
Please state why.
Because he's showing the picture and showing the person demonstration also.
So
that
he's showing by example, and the other one is simply on paper. Very good, very good, very good. Okay, Rishi Kumar Prabhu. Right. So again, he's showing by example and he's taking everybody along with him. Very good. Okay, this group here goes first.
Right one is the leader because he's helping the other person to grow by pouring water. The other one is trying to play baseball.
How many devotees here have dabbled with golf or have know what the game is? So, okay. The next. Okay, Chaitanya Avatari Prabhu.
On the right side.
If you don't give an explanation next 3 seconds, the team loses. 1, 2, and
is
3.
giving an
Radheshyam Prabhu.
Actually, on the right side is giving an alternative plan. Plan A didn't work, so he's showing plan B.
Yes.
Whereas this fellow is minimizing him and taunting him.
Wonderful, wonderful. Rishi Kumar Prabhu went first.
Has to be the second one. There's so many of them and he's saying we, not I. We is a team and the leader is also there. Everyone's got a role to play.
Excellent. Now, from what I gathered, this team and this team worked very nicely together. And everybody worked very nicely together. If you had to describe what you see on the left in one word and what you see on the right in one word, this is what they call a tiebreaker question, okay? 2 points here, 2 points here. Now, for the tiebreaker question, what is on the left and what is on the right in all these pictures? Okay, Rishi Kumar Prabhu went first.
First one is autocracy and second one is democracy or teamwork.
Teamwork, okay. I'm glad I heard democracy. I was thinking, Okay, very good. In the typical language, the left is called the boss. Boss. I'm the one. And the right is called an inclusive, accommodative leader. Now, here, for you, is a comparison between a boss and a leader in words. Typically, pictures speak more than words. But in the end, to summarize, we have to have words. On the left-hand side are the symptoms of a boss, and on the right-hand side are symptoms of a leader, and I'll call upon Gauravani Prabhu to read them aloud for the benefit of all of us.
Differences between a boss and a leader. Boss drives employees, depends on authority, inspires fear, says I, places blame for the breakdown, knows how it's done, uses people, takes credit, commands, says go. The leader coaches employees, depends on goodwill, generates enthusiasm, says we, fixes the breakdown, shows how it's done, develops people, gives credit, asks, says let's go.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So, before we embark upon leadership and any other matter, it's very important for us to throw out of our minds the concepts of being a boss. It's a fundamental requirement. If we can't get this idea of boss out of our mind, described as dictatorship, out of our mind, then we cannot become leaders.
The question I've got is, in some aspects of our, say, management services, there might be certain situations in which a leadership situation is what's required. But there might be some other situations, for example, budgeting. You might, for example, put out to the other managers, what are your budgets? What would you like for this upcoming budget round? But then sometimes the calls they have to be made. So I know my organisation, it's majority of it's the leadership type of stuff, but sometimes just someone has to make a call on things. Or so how do you kind of get that balance? Is it that it always has to be leadership on anything that you do, or do people sometimes have to take more of a look, actually no, in this situation we do have to go this way?
So there are situations where you have to take decisions, you have to distribute tasks. How you do it and how much the balance is always tilted towards the left will determine how far you are from being a leader. If there is an emergency, then you have to take a decision. You can't call upon a meeting, sit for 10 minutes, have a discussion, or maybe 2 hours and have a collaborative discussion while the emergency is going on. So yes, there are exceptions like that. But in a normal course of affair, the right-hand side is how we should try and conduct ourselves. Okay? Hare Krishna. Let's hear what Srila Prabhupada wanted us or wanted off from his leaders. Okay.
Our leaders shall be careful not to kill the spirit of enthusiastic service, which is individual and spontaneous and voluntary. They should try always to generate some atmosphere of fresh challenge of the devotees, so that they will agree enthusiastically to rise and meet it. That is the art of management, to draw out spontaneous loving spirit of sacrificing some energy for Krishna.
Thank you. Letter to Karandhara Prabhu in 1972. An important quote from Srila Prabhupada, if not one of the most important quotes from Srila Prabhupada on leadership. And what are the 3 words? What are the 3 words that we all always talk about from this quote? Devakinandan Prabhu.
Individual, spontaneous, and
Please use the mic.
individual, spontaneous, and voluntary.
ISV. ISV. Individual, spontaneous, and voluntary. Those are the principles that Srila Prabhupada expected us to conduct ourselves as leaders. Let's now look at the Shastras. An example from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. The incident of Gundicha Marjanam, and how what lessons can we draw upon for leadership from this pastime of Gundicha Marjana. May I call upon some devotees who would help us read the Bengali very nicely, Maharaj?
শতহস্তে করেন যেন স্খালন মার্জন প্রতিজন পাশে যাই করানো শিক্ষণ.
Jai. Will you please also read?
It appeared as through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were cleansing and washing with 100 hands. He approached every devotee just to teach him how to work. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 12:108.
There are few lessons that we can draw from this. A leader leads by personal example, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did himself. He trains. He first trains and then empowers devotees to do the same. Quite similar to what Aniruddha Prabhu's explanation was when he tried to give an explanation on education and Gurukul. You train and then you empower them to take it forward. Let's see what else happens in this pastime. Maharaj?
ভালো কর্ম দেখি তারে করে প্রশংসন মনে না মিলিলে করে পবিত্র ভর্ৎসন. When he saw someone doing nicely, the Lord praised him. But if he saw that someone was not working to his satisfaction, he immediately chastised that person, not wearing him any grudge. Chaitanya Charitamrita 12:116.
So here we see that how Lord Chaitanya encouraged sincerity, but he also at the same time corrected blunders, quite akin to what Prabhu's question was earlier on. There could be situations where you need to correct, where you need to direct, but the more core principle is to encourage. Also, he rewarded and rebuked others with detachment, without favoritism and grudge. After this wonderful example of Chaitanya Charitamrita's pastime of Lord Chaitanya, I'd like you to note down, think of a leader that you felt inspired by, and note down the 3 qualities that you associate with this style of team leadership. This is an individual assignment. It could be a leader, a contemporary leader present now, or it could be a leader from the past that you interacted with. And 3 qualities that you felt very inspired with. Preferably ISKCON. ISKCON. Yes. Yes, if you like to, why not, of course. Great. Hare Krishna. A few more seconds and then we'll hear from you. We'll hear from you the 3 qualities of team leadership that you felt very inspired with. Okay. Just a few more seconds. Okay, so from this side of the room, would anybody, Rishi Kumar Prabhu?
At the risk of sounding predictable, the leader who inspires me is His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. The 3 qualities that inspire me about him is, one is in terms of engagement of his team members as per their propensity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that inspires me. Apart from that, having empowered engaged someone, he ensures that there is empowerment and sufficient space to work. And having done that, he doesn't let it totally loose, but he also ensures that there is continuous feedback for follow-up.
Wonderful.
This is something that I've learned.
Wonderful. So Maharaj gives, first Maharaj is able to identify the skills, then he gives autonomy for you to exercise. And then, at the same time, he keeps the checks and balances with constructive feedback. Thank you for sharing. Who else would like to share? Radheshyam Prabhu.
I had written my special master is known as Radhanath Swami Maharaj's name. One of the qualities while working in a team, he sees the overall picture well and showers love on all, including those who are inimical or having certain problems. So he gave an example. that one patient had a heart transplantation need. He was supposed to, but the doctor refused to do that because the kidney was also in trouble. If this would be done, the patient would die during the operation only. So the doctor said no. So, and the patient after 3-4 years passed away. So he was telling that when we are repairing a member of the team, we should also see the repercussions in the whole team and the whole community. He said, so we should see overall picture. So I like that point very much. Another point is he is sensitive and kind first, and offering correction and saying what is right next. And he always tells me and many others also that we should be more compassionate and forgiving in the first place. Then we will be able to solve very difficult to solve problems also.
And in many ways, the second point, where he gives the positive first, comes from the third.
Yeah, between right and kind, he chooses kind first.
Wonderful. So thank you for sharing. Overall picture, the leader must always have an overall picture, not just get into firefighting mode and not understanding the repercussions that it will have on others, and always be kind first. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Would one last comment? Yes, Vivekananda Prabhu.
I learned from Tamal Krishna Maharaj. One was, he was always there to encourage a devotee to be there in your service. No matter what happens, just don't leave. I remember when murder took place in Bombay, everybody was like, what to do. So that was very classic example. Otherwise, he built the confidence in his leader. And I remember the example of learning bicycle. When you learn bicycle, you are from EP, that father is holding bicycle. Son feels he is holding, although he has left it, but he thinks that he is holding. Tamal Krishna Maharaj always kind of, he pushes us, but we also felt that, he is there always with us. So that gave encouragement. Third was, he always inspired to see the future, don't get stuck in the present. Like we formed this committee, Radha Ras Bihari committee, that inspiration came from him. He said Prabhupada very much wanted a committee to form, and Prabhupada's lifetime, he said we formed the committee, but didn't work out. That Prabhupada wants, so please keep it up. So I got inspired by a few of these things.
Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada was a visionary, and his dedicated followers and disciples, as we have heard from 3 of the members here, are all looking at the bigger purpose. They're able to look at the future and always stand behind devotees, supporting them, encouraging them, taking care of them to take the mission forward. So some wonderful qualities of the leadership came out. There are some principles that I've listed here, and maybe Prabhu can help us read.
Keep purpose, goals and approach clear, meaningful. Strengthen the mix and level of skills. Manage external relationships, remove obstacles. Create opportunities for everyone to learn and grow. Build commitment and confidence. Do real work, be involved.
So these are the responsibilities that leaders have to inherit. We as leaders, this is part of our DNA. It should be part of our job profile. If something goes wrong, like Devkinandan Prabhu was giving an example, you do not disappear from the back. You stay there with your team. Strengthen the mix and level of skills. Leader is able to identify who's good at what. Empower them, train them, bring them, let them rise to the occasion and perform more and more glorious service. Remove external obstacles. If you are part of a team where these are the ethos, principles, and those who are taking the leadership position follow these principles, set a very nice vision, purpose, most members will feel extremely encouraged. So at this point in time, where we have now briefly covered, touched upon leadership, heard from Srila Prabhupada what he expected, looked at what is the difference between an autocratic boss and an inclusive leader, and then you meditated on what are the qualities of the leaders that you feel inspired with, and we looked at some principles. We will pause here for a break. For according to that clock, it's about 13 minutes to 12. We try and come back by 5 minutes past 12. This is also an opportunity for you to chant the Gayatri if you like to do that. Thank you so much, and I'll see you at 5 minutes past 12. Please come on time so that we can start our next session.
Back, everyone. We're having a bit of a technical glitch. So I request that you use this few minutes for two things. One was the group assignment that we talked about, and the other is an individual assessment. So please use these few minutes based upon what we covered in the morning. If there is anything for the individual assessment that you feel inspired with on your project, then you can note that down. And if you've done that individually, then you can also spend some time as a group for the group assignment. Let me put it this way, that your team assignment is mandatory. If you don't have your team assignment ready, then your individual assessments will not be assessed. Yes. So the team assignment comes first. So please make sure that you have your team assignments done. It's working? Okay, let's see. Let's check again if this one will work.
Why you are giving lunch time? Let us enjoy lunch. Why are you giving lunch time? Let us enjoy lunch. You enjoy lunch with you? But not talking. We'll say how is sabji, how is rice, dal.
We can discuss only the chawal dal one. What do we discuss that how the kitchen people has made this sabji. Everyone has started.
Surprised.
They're going to feel disappointed you assigning work to them when they argue that what they do wrong in the scheme of things and expect the discussion to be with me. If you want to assist me in plans and projects which we're going to discuss, I welcome that. If so, it's probably better if you and I agree with the group what you will do. Yes, they've had a chance.
Everybody discussing.
Krishna.
We haven't done anything.
Hare Krishna. So we performed a minor surgery. We shifted from one laptop to another laptop, and as long as Krishna allows us on the second laptop, we shall continue. Hare Krishna. So, in the morning, where we stopped, we talked about leadership, the first here, just right before what we're going to cover now. We talked about purpose. We looked at how important the purpose is for a team to work on, and then we looked at leadership, the qualities of a good leader versus a boss or a dictator. Now we come to a very important aspect of team building, which is the team spirit. We can have a very articulate purpose. We can have a great leader. But if we do not have members who have proper team spirit, our team building will fall flat. Now, there's one sutra for team, which I listed here. Simply stated, a team is less me and more we. If you notice, the Vaishnava spirit is actually embedded in a team, extending ourselves to help others, not focusing so much on what I want for myself, but wanting to serve others, serve along with others. Now, if this principle is amiss, we cannot have a successful team. When you are building a team, there are different kind of members that you can invite to join in your team, right? You have a choice. If you're the leader, if you have a variety, and some cases we are in a situation where we don't have a choice, but in some cases we do have a choice. If we have that situation, then we can invite 4 kinds of people to the team. And I'm going to share with you a video which will give you some warning on this aspect. Prabhu, the audio for the video is not playing. Hare Krishna. The sound. If the sound doesn't work, then we'll go back to the 40s and the 50s and we'll just observe the silent movie. Okay? Rishi Kumar Prabhu is suggesting we use a cordless mic. Okay? So we'll use a cordless mic. Innovative. Connected? Okay. One last try. Struggle and Company. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it literally going back to the 30s.
We went to 1930s. 1930s.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. A situation of company can be replaced with our teams. So, would anybody like to comment on what are the 4 different kinds of personalities, 1 or 2 different kind of personalities that you typically find in a team? Okay, who are the desirable which are the desirable personalities out of these that you like to have in your team? Radhashyam Prabhu.
Because who really like to help. We want to help.
Yes.
Yeah. So most is someone who has a competence and they want to help you.
Okay.
One who is willing to be trained.
Willing
and
to be
eventually you'll
trained.
be a much better performer eventually.
Right. And if we make this, I won't call it a mistake, but if we make this choice of bringing in, what happens? We come to a grounding halt, grinding halt. That's what we come to. Okay. Oh, please.
Since ISKCON is not just an organization, it is also a home for those who join as Vaishnavas. In the beginning, it's very difficult to access people, but after coming in after 5 years or 10 years down the line, say you come to understand somebody is like that fellow who was pulling from behind. There are also people like that. But because they have tilak, they have kantimala, they have dhoti kurta, they have joined the mission, oftentimes it is not like a company you hire and throw people, hire and fire people. You can't do that. So in such a case, we accept it as a necessary evil and go on.
And you're right, we accept it as a necessary evil and go on. And we also find a way to engage them. It's not that they have to be engaged in time-sensitive, critical, mission-oriented activities all the time. We find a suitable engagement for them where we can give them shelter. But that's step 1. It should be clarified to everybody that they're expected to rise from their lower modes, their lower tendencies, to come to a platform where they can become good contributors to Srila Prabhupada's mission. That needs to be communicated. Yes, so Radheshyam Prabhu is saying, if not a contributor, at least don't be a destroyer. Okay, but it is upon the leaders, it is upon actually the team to help such individuals. Often they behave the way they do because of their past conditioning, because of certain bad experiences. And we have to help them, to help the mission and help the team. Otherwise they'll keep dragging us back. Hare Krishna. Aniruddha Prabhu has...
Just because a person joins ISKCON doesn't mean de facto they're part of any team. And so you choose your teams wisely when you're building your productive workers, if you like, your productive team. But some people in ISKCON are too damaged to be part of anything for some time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
The problem which Radheshyam Prabhu was indicating, there's no hire and fires policy in ISKCON actually. And sometimes what we found, we wanted to work to achieve the purpose also in a team shape. But in the team members, like we have seen in videos, and then they are not ready to change even. And what happens in after serving so many years in this ISKCON, so everybody knows then to whom I should approach for my problems, or to who will be the guard for me if somebody attacks on me on this and that. So he knows the authorities also to whom I should approach, even then who will be the bigger than my authority, so that they cannot make me out also from the team also. So sometimes it becomes very...
Yes, we are not undermining, or we are not stating that it's not a real issue that we have within our society, especially that it's a voluntary society and people come in. But there are ways and ways and means of coming around this. My message was, as leaders, if somebody is not performing well, has a wrong mentality, the onus is as much upon us as it is on them to be kind to them and help them improve. Okay, so let's hear from Srila Prabhupada. I'm going to present to you 3 or 4 quotes, and
I'd like to call upon some devotee who can help us read this. Where are the mics? Would Rishi Kumar Prabhu like to read? On the top of each section, I've put the sutra from the quote, and the quote describes. These are all messages from Srila Prabhupada encouraging us on the team spirit. What is the mood of everybody who's part of a team? Over to you, Prabhu.
Not I or you, but Krishna. So we shall not think that this is my zone, that it's his zone, just like the Indian and Pakistan nation are thinking, and then there is war. No. Lord Chaitanya has given us the task to preach his message all over the world. And any process which may be useful for facilitating this business, that we shall gladly adopt. Never mind his zone or my zone. That is material designation. But we shall always do everything in cooperative spirit and avoid any fighting amongst us. That is Vaishnava attitude to others, especially to devotees of the Lord. Letter to Jagdisha, 18th November 1972.
Not I or you, but Krishna. A very famous quote, again.
Bundle of sticks. Please try to maintain the philosophy of unity in diversity. They will make our movement successful. One section of men have already gone out. Therefore, we must be very careful to maintain unity in diversity. And remember the story of Aesop's fable, of the father of the many children with the bundle of sticks. When the father asked his children to break the bundle of sticks wrapped in the bag, none of them could do it. But when they removed the sticks from the bag and tried one by one, the sticks were easily broken. So this is the strength in unity. If we are bounced up, we can never be broken. Bunched up, we can never be broken. But when divided, then we can become broken very easily.
So Prabhupada noticed this symptom and he gave us a warning. His children, his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, he's given a warning how we should stick together. We should live together so that we cannot be broken apart. This unity in diversity.
Unity in diversity. The materialist, without being able to adjust the varieties and the disagreements, makes everything zero. They cannot come into agreement with varieties. But if we keep Krishna in the center, then there will be agreement in varieties. This is called unity in diversity. I am therefore suggesting that all our men meet in Mayapur every year during the birth anniversary of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. With all GBC and senior men present, we should discuss how to make unity in diversity.
So many times Srila Prabhupada emphasized on unity in diversity because we are an international organization. Within this room there are so many nationalities, devotees coming from different cultures, but the only way we can work together and serve together as a team is when we practice this principle of unity in diversity. Let's hear from the scriptures, and thankfully this time, Maharaj, I got it right.
Shastra Chakshu Shri Bhagavan Vacha Param Pranidvam Baltrambo Yoyam Me Nirpam Dandana Soharadhena Pratak Dhamas Tushtuham Sohridena Va. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear sons of the King, I am very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you. All of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I am so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. Now, you may ask the benediction of me. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, Text 8.
So the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifested himself when he saw this unity amongst the Prachetas. The lesson being, one is willing to sacrifice time and effort for the unity of the whole or the team. Now, if we have the team spirit, One word that is used in some parlance is if somebody else is part of the team, what is that person called in relationship to you? What is the word? Teammate. Yeah. So would Aniruddha Prabhu, sort of from Australia, tell us what is this word composed of? What does this really mean? You know, maybe in that part of the world they use this suffix very often.
Mate.
Loudly, please.
Mate.
Mate.
But it depends on the it depends on the context.
In the context of a team, in an encouraging context, if you have to give a message to this forum and decipher that word teammate, how would you put it?
Member would probably be more appropriate, I would suggest, than teammate.
Okay. Mate is often used in a comradeship spirit. Somebody who's close to you, somebody you look at like your brother, you look at as your relative. So teammate. Now, we may have this spirit, we talked about the team spirit, but we also need to get a good composition. Now, the composition that we will talk about in this section is not the 3-4 kind of personalities we saw previously. They just didn't have the right spirit. The spirit was to drag the team, spoil the mood. The composition that we are going to talk about is in the spirit of unity in diversity. So different devotees come with different skill sets. How do we engage them? So we're moving to the 4th section, which is called composition. What sort of team do we create? Typically, leaders, this is how some leaders want the team to be. Would you like to describe?
Does everybody know what a Lego block is?
Please
Lego?
help us and explain to us what does this message really communicate.
Do you know what a Lego block is? Okay. Lego is something that children play with, and you can make buildings out of it, right? And all of the blocks on the whole look the same and have the same function in that they interlock. The problem with that is that there's not a lot of individuality expressed by a Lego block.
Right. It is most convenient within a team for the leader and the team member. This is the natural inertia amongst us. It's most convenient if everybody looks alike, speaks alike, thinks alike, dresses alike, eats alike. You know, that's the best thing. If you see a normal setting, devotees from the same part of the world, they'll typically go and sit in the same table. You know, if there's lunch happening, you'll see they're all together. This is a natural phenomena, right? But please note, this natural inertia or phenomena shall not help us develop an international society for Krishna consciousness in the true sense. Right? So we have to overcome this. We have to overcome this inherent inertia of wanting to look at people who look, think, behave differently than us. And that's the main message. So although it is difficult, but we have to do it in the interest of the team. Now there was a scientist by the name of Belbin, and I'll request the devotees here to please circulate that handout. And this scientist, as you'll see in the video, he studied, he analyzed, and he came up with 9 different kinds of roles that should be played in a healthy team. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but at least 9. And he claimed that in order for a team to have a good composition, complementing each other, making sure we are able to look at it from all perspectives, these 9 roles should be present. Now, I have a video. So the handout is with you. I have a video where the video shall describe to you the 9 roles. And then after the video, we will look at this handout and see that we can more or less grasp what these 9 roles are. But before I start the video, I need 3 groups to volunteer. 3 groups to volunteer, because there are these 9 roles are divided into 3 categories. And when you volunteer, you have to, and I'll assign you those 3 categories now. You just have to pay close attention when it comes to your category, and make sure you have enough notes to explain to others in simple words. We're not going into a threadbare detail of the psychological analysis of Belbin, but I would at least like us to leave this room understanding these different roles. So would any 3 groups kindly volunteer? So Rishi Kumar Prabhu has volunteered. 1 group is here. I need 2 more groups before we start the video. Gaurvani Prabhu and his group has volunteered. Okay. 1 more. Devkinandan Prabhu. Okay. So now, you have a handout in front of you. That handout says the 3 categories on the leftmost column. Action-oriented roles. So who's action-oriented here? Who wants to take the action-oriented roles? The 3 groups are already assigned. So Devkinandan Prabhu, action-oriented man. So action-oriented roles. So the action-oriented roles will come in this video. From my recollection, they'll come in the end. And the person will specifically say, this is action-oriented roles. Then there is people-oriented roles. So Rishi Kumar Prabhu and your group has taken up people-oriented roles. And the 3rd category that is left on the table now is, by default, thinking-oriented roles. The last category on your handout is called cerebral roles, but it will be shown in the video as thinking roles, thinking, and I think they will come first. So first will be thinking roles, which is at the bottom of the sheet, then will come people-oriented roles, and then will come action-oriented roles. Okay? Sorry? Are we all set? Yes, Aniruddha Prabhu. What are we supposed to be doing? Okay. So, okay, the expectation is, it's a 4-5 minute video, and I think it will be very difficult for everybody to absorb everything. So I'm dividing that into 3 smaller groups. You focus on action-oriented roles, which will come in the end. There are 3 categories: shaper, implementer, and complementer in action-oriented role. Just sort of grasp what does it really mean, so that when we have this interaction after that, you'll be able to explain in simple words, what is this action-oriented 3 categories? Why are there 3 categories? And what value in your estimation do they bring to the table? Any other clarification before we start the exercise? Thinking. Radheshyam Prabhu, your group is thinking roles. People-oriented, Rishi Kumar Prabhu's. Audio, please.
Okay, so Belbin team roles. Well, the concept for the team roles started when Dr. Meredith Belbin was working with a group of business managers and executives. This was in the 1970s at a place called Henley Management College in Oxfordshire in England. And he became interested in the make-up of teams. In particular, what he wanted to know was what makes a winning team. So he did some psychometrics, he put them into teams, he got them playing a kind of supercharged Monopoly, and one of the things he discovered early was that a successful team needs a range of abilities. You already know this, you don't expect your opening bowler to also open the batting. Likewise, you don't think that because somebody's a champion cyclist, they'll automatically be great at the shot put. Belbin put it this way, he said, a team of specialists will always beat a team of all-rounders. As time progressed, different clusters of behaviour were identified as underlying the success of the teams, and Belbin called a team role a tendency to behave, contribute and interrelate with others in a particular way. Now, it's important to remember that Belbin is about working on strengths. You don't tell the duck you're a great swimmer, but your running's terrible, so we'll work on that. No, you try and maximise the duck's value as a swimmer. So Belbin identified 9 team roles that underlie successful team composition, and you can think of them in groups of 3. So the first group are the thinking-oriented roles. Now the first role, these people are highly creative and imaginative. They're good at solving problems in unconventional kinds of ways. Okay, and Belbin called these people plants. Now the second group, these people are logical. They can weigh up options. They can make impartial judgments that aren't based on emotions, yeah? These are the kind of people who can give you real advice, and Belbin called these people monitor evaluators. The last and the first group, well, these people just have detailed knowledge of a specific key area. It might be nuclear physics, it might be the chemical composition of donuts. These are the specialists. Okay, so the second group of roles are the people-oriented roles. And the first of these are, well, this is the person who can manage the team. They can delegate the work. They can focus on the team's objectives, and this is the coordinator. The second group, well, these people are the heart and soul of the team. They're able to use their versatility to give assistance to all team members. They're the team worker. The last in this little group, well, these people know the market. They've got inside knowledge of the opposition. They connect the team's ideas to the world. These are the resource investigators. Now the final trio are the action-oriented roles. And the first of these roles is the driver, the leader. Belbin calls this role the shaper. Shapers have the drive to keep the team moving forward and focused. The second group are the doers. These are the people who plan practical strategies and carry them out efficiently. They actually make the product. These are the implementers. The final role, and it's most effective near the end of the task, which is when they can polish, scrutinise for errors, ensure a high standard of quality control. These are the completer finishers. So there are the 9 roles. Does this mean that every successful team needs 9 members? Well, no. Some roles are shared or one individual takes on more than one. The roles have specific strengths and associated problem areas. But really, they're a tool for managing yourself and the other members of your team. It encourages awareness, integration and efficiency. It promotes a team of specialists, which is a winning team.
Hare Krishna. So, this was the only short and comprehensive video that would fit within our schedule that I was able to find, so my apologies. But I would like to call upon individual groups. As I mentioned earlier on, it is not expected that we are going to give a complete thesis on this. If we can just broadly understand the 3, in each of your categories, the three different roles that are being played, then that would be most helpful. We started the video with the thinking hat, the thinking role, so which brings us to the table here, the team here, who's going to share with us something about the plant, the monitor, evaluator, and the specialist. And we heard some nice things about them in the video, right?
So I will start, and maybe they can add something more after.
Yes, but we will do it in 2 minutes.
Okay, so first I see that the plant is the people, they are able to give vision to all the project. So others, they are able to divide the project into different steps. So others are looking for balance and see what is the good point and the weak point, just to find a balance into that, to make reasonable and concrete the project. And so the specialists are who are defining the jobs into details and giving the procedures. That's what I got.
Thank you so much. Would any of the other team members like to add?
Hare Krishna. Just like any building requires a blueprint, before it is put into action. In the same manner, the cerebral roles, people playing this role seem to play a very vital role in terms of thought process, but they don't have the drive to make things happen.
So now Radheshyam Prabhu is coming to what are the weaknesses. So may I request that for the plant, the monitor and specialist.
Each of them.
Yeah. So tell us, a plant sort of a person, what are the possible weaknesses?
Correct. Actually here it says that although he is capable of solving difficult problem, he lacks people talent, people skill in terms of communicating his thought to others, although he himself knows it. That is his weakness in plant.
So very good in terms of vision, in terms of creative thinking, but because he's so absorbed in his own thinking and himself that he sometimes misses the rest of the world. You know, the Einstein type of a personality, if I may use that word. Thank you. What do you see, Radheshyam Prabhu, in a monitor and evaluator? What possible weaknesses could arise there?
Actually, he can judge accurately, so naturally there is a pride of perfection. There is a pride of, able to see things with clarity, and he sees the whole world around as ignorant. So naturally he can become critical. Yeah. That is the monitor or evaluator.
So being critical is nice. I mean, okay, let me put it this way. Fault finding, criticism is something as Vaishnavas we don't want to talk about. But you have to wear that hat. To do justice to a project, you have to be critical in a nice way, in a constructive way. But being overcritical is a tendency that the monitor has. He gets so much into judgment that he starts criticizing people too much. Okay? And what about the specialist?
The specialist is single-minded and he provides knowledge and all that. The only problem is he dwells in technicalities, which means he can lose the bigger picture. He may get stuck on small details. But he is providing technical small details may be helpful for someone who knows the bigger picture actually. For them, his output can be input to that person.
Right. So for a team, a specialist is a great input, but if we just leave with specialists who are too narrow, then we may not be able to solve the bigger problems. So thank you. Let's give a round of applause to this group. Hare Krishna. Let's move to the action-oriented group. And so the action-oriented group shall share with us who are the shapers, implementers, and completers.
Well, from my understanding, the shaper is a person who can...
Can everybody hear Prabhu clearly? Can somebody on the top please increase the volume, because I don't think the volume is loud enough.
A shaper is a person who can help give body to the strategy, to the effective working plan. An implementer is somebody who gets things done.
So the shaper is the first step, almost like a foundation step toward before implementation, right? He sort of puts the blocks together, the Lego blocks.
Yeah, works out the path or the necessary steps to get to the end goal. The implementer is a person who's, well, they do it. Make sure, or they see that it gets done. They can organize a project, so kind of like a project manager, not necessarily a actual doer, but somebody who organizes everybody to do. This is what I picked up from the video. Right?
Sure.
And the finisher is important because that's the person who will take all of the elements that might be identified by all the other members of the group, and they polish up the final result so that it's presentable and you know, the job is complete.
Right. And do you see any broad shortcomings which would exist in this category of people, broadly speaking? Some weaknesses. If we only had action-oriented people in a
Apart from
group
what's
team.
written here, I guess a shaper is good at dealing with things, but maybe not necessarily with people. So they can push things around, or they can see where everything should go, but might not be able to appreciate some of the more subtler points of getting people to do things.
Okay. Would you like to add?
They defend. They defend people as well. They'll rub people the wrong way, or you know, because their vision is their vision.
I see something like architect, engineer, and the person who is constructing the building. So SEPAR is like architect, implementary engineer who is supervising the work goes on, and the person who is building, the building is like completer or finisher. That's how I see.
Okay, nice. The shaper and the implementer and complete finisher will be actually the person who does in the end and does the finishing. The last. So nice analogy.
Contractor. Like in TFBP that.
Gammon.
Gammon India is the finisher, and then our engineer teams are there, and Braj Vilas, everybody, you, me, are implementer, and then architect they have given the,
Nice, very nice analogy. Thank you, Devkinandan Prabhu. So, but clearly we felt from the first group and the second group, let's give a second group also a round of applause, please. But both identified that these people can rub the people wrong way. They miss the picture, they miss the people altogether. So let's go to the people-oriented group and share with us what do the people-oriented roles bring to the table.
So three levels of roles here. One is as the coordinator role, which is generally a single person, but depending on the needs of the team could be otherwise also. Then there is a team worker, which is essentially could again be many people, and a resource investigator. Now the one common thread among these three roles is that these could typically end up as being staff functions, where somebody may end up asking, what are you guys really doing except just coordinating with people? So there is a big risk because others are all into heavy active roles, other two sets, which is action-oriented and cerebral roles. So the people-oriented roles sometimes end up getting sidelined in terms of the respect levels that they receive from the so-called action people. Having said that, the coordinator's role is that of, he is essentially the person who delegates, manages the objectives of the team, and also ensures that he manages the team per se, where each one of them is meeting their roles. But the problem is that this, it is mentioned there in the weakness that the person can actually become manipulative because obviously he has a lot in it to call these shots, and the person could actually offload work. He could just siphon off what he is doing into somebody else's and just generally call the shots. And by the same token, even within his own role, if you look at some people as working under him, there is a very high likelihood that they will point fingers at him saying that what's this guy doing? We are doing all the hard work. So this is a typical weakness that a coordinator can drift off into, where instead of setting an example, he could end up just coordinating, ensuring that others meet their objectives, but my effective contribution can be neglected. So this is...
They may slacken off.
Yes, they could just slacken off.
Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to that group. Now, each of these, so although there is one
I haven't finished, but if you want...
Sorry,
there are
apologies.
two other levels of workers within this, which is the team worker and the resource investigator. The resource investigator is a person who coordinates with the community and outside places to arrange the requirements of the team in general. And here again, the problem is that this could be a time-bound requirement. So the person's enthusiasm levels could just flag off. Once the effective requirement for the project is met in terms of people or in terms of material, the person would just slack off, saying nothing much to do on a regular basis. And the third one is a team worker. Now biggest problem with the team worker is he will just remain a team worker. He would not look at taking initiative many times. And it is very convenient to be masked. His inefficiency can actually get masked. He can work within the team and people may not even know for many years that he is not doing anything.
He can hide behind.
Yeah,
as they say.
disguised unemployment.
Thank you, Rishi Kumar Prabhu. Now, although there's a specialist here called the specialist, but these are all specialist roles. All of them are roles that a team requires because they bring something to the table. There are strengths and weaknesses, as we heard, that we need to be cognizant of. And I'll request Prabhu to please come here and circulate a detailed handout. If you are interested in learning more about this, there's a handout for you which describes the roles, the advantages and disadvantages of each role. But from our perspective, when we are establishing a team, we should analyze the strengths and weaknesses of each of our team member that they bring to the team. Looking at it from the perspective of these 9 roles, see, do I have an implementer? Do I have a finisher? Do I have a shaper in my team or not? Because if you do not have a coordinator, then your project will become very, very slow and inefficient. Can you just keep it here? Thank you. Now, once you analyze your team, consider the following questions. Which team roles and respective strengths are likely to be missing from the team? Please bear in mind, I'm sharing this with you for your individual assessments also. The projects that you're currently working on or you worked on in the past, see which of the roles was missing in my project. Then, is there a prevalent team role or role that many of the team members are playing? I.e., you have 5 people coordinators, but you don't have any implementer. You have, everybody wants to be a shaper, but nobody wants to implement, right? So you look at it from that perspective. Having identified potential weaknesses, areas of conflict and missing strength, consider the options you have to improve and change this. And you can do this by take the existing team members and find out if they can be purposefully re-engaged in another role, either by training or they do have the ability, because as was mentioned, one person can perform more than one role. It's not necessary that each team has to have 9 members. One person can perform 3 roles, but the roles must exist. Whether one or more team members can improve how they work together to avoid potential conflict of their natural styles. You know, one category is just, they rub the people off the wrong way, right? So you've got to avoid that conflict. Okay, and whether new skills need to be brought onto the team to cover their weaknesses. You need to evaluate what skills need to be brought. So it's 1 o'clock, and we pause here for a lunch and prasadam break. Those who are interested to know more about this Belbin, the handouts are with Prabhu on the exit from here. We will reassemble here again at 3:30. And when we reassemble at 3:30, we will be starting the discussion or the presentation by at least a few groups. So as a token of respect to those who will be presenting their team assignment, please come on time. And thank you so much for being with us in the morning. Hare Krishna. Jai.